Hello and welcome back to Narrated This, the Chronicles of Prydain, Book 3, The Castle of Llyr, Chapter 2, Dinas Rident, or Dinas Rident. The days that followed put Taran in better spirits. The companions grew used to the motion of the ship. The air was clear, sharp, and salt-laden, and Taran could taste the briny spray on his lips. While Prince Rune, from atop his platform, shouted commands which the crew, as usual, did not heed, the companions were glad to pass the time by lending a hand at the tasks aboard. The work, as Cole had foretold, eased Taran's heart. Yet there came moments when he suddenly recalled the purpose of the voyage and wished it would never end. He had just finished coiling a length of rope when Cor swooped down from the mast and circled around him, croaking wildly. An instant later, the lookout cried he had sighted land. At Prince Rune's urging, the companions hastened to climb to the platform. In the bright morning, Taran saw the hills of Mona spring from the horizon. The vessel sped closer to the crescent-shaped harbour of Dinas Rident, with its piers and jetties, its stone sea wall, and clusters of ships. Steep cliffs rose almost from the water's edge, and on the highest of them stood a tall castle. From it, the banners of the House of Rudlum snapped in the breeze. The vessel glided to the pier. The sailors cast the mooring lines and leapt ashore. The companions, with Prince Rune marching in the lead, were escorted to the castle by ranks of warriors who made a hedge of honour with their spears. Yet even this short journey did not end without mishap. The Prince of Mona, drawing his sword to return the salute of the Captain of Guards, did so with such a sweeping gesture that the point snagged in Taran's cloak. "I say, I'm sorry about that," cried Rune, curiously examining the long, gaping slash his blade had caused. "And I too, Prince of Mona," Taran muttered, vexed at Rune and embarrassed at the impression his torn garment would make on the king and queen. He said no more, but shut his lips and desperately hoped the damage would go unnoticed. The procession passed through the castle gates and into a wide courtyard. Shouting a glad, "Hello, hello!" Prince Rune hurried to his waiting parents. King Rudlum had the same round and cheerful face as Prince Rune. He greeted the companions cordially, repeating himself a number of times. If he was aware of Taran's torn cloak, he showed no sign, which only added to Taran's distress. When King Rudlum at last finished talking, Queen Teleria stepped forward. The queen was a stout, pleasant-looking woman, dressed in fluttering white garments. A golden circlet crowned her braided hair, which was now the same straw colour as Prince Rune's. She showered Eilonwy with kisses, embraced the still embarrassed Taran, and halted in amazement when she came to Gurgi, but embraced him nevertheless. "Welcome, daughter of Angarad," Queen Teleria began, returning to Eilonwy. "Your presence honours. Don't fidget, child. Stand straight. Our royal house." The queen stopped suddenly and took Eilonwy by the shoulders. "Good Llyr!" she cried. "Where did you get those frightful clothes? Yes, I can see it's high time Dalbin let you out of that hole and corner in the middle of the woods." "Hole and corner indeed," Eilonwy cried. "I love Caer Dalbin, and Dalbin is a great enchanter." "Exactly," said Queen Teleria. "He's so busy casting spells and all such that he's let you grow like a weed." She turned to Queen Rudlum. "Wouldn't you say so, my dear?" "Very much like a weed," agreed the king, eyeing Cor with interest. The crow hunched up his wings, opened his beak, and loudly croaked, "Rudlum!" to the king's immense delight. Queen Teleria, meanwhile, had been examining Taran and Gurgi by turns. "Look at that disgracefully torn cloak! Ye must both have new raiment," she declared. "New jackets, new sandals, everything. Luckily we have a perfectly wonderful shoemaker at the castle now. He was just— Don't pout that way, my child, you'll give yourself a blister. Passing through. But we've kept him busy, and he's still cobbling away. Our chief steward shall see to it. Mag!" she called. "Mag! Where is he?" "At your command," answered the chief steward, who had been standing all the while by Queen Teleria's elbow. He wore one of the finest cloaks Taran had ever seen, its rich embroidery almost surpassing King Rudlum's garment. Mag carried a long staff of polished wood, taller than himself. From his neck hung a chain of heavy silver links, and at his belt was a huge iron ring from which jingled keys of all sizes. "All has been ordered," said Mag, bowing deeply. "Your decision has been foreseen. The shoemaker, the tailors, and the weavers stand ready." "Excellent!" Queen Teleria cried. "Now the princess and I shall go first to the weaving rooms, and Mag shall show the rest of you to your chambers." Mag bowed again, even more deeply, and beckoned with his staff. With Gurgi at his heels, Terran followed the chief steward through the courtyard into a high stone building and down a vaulted corridor. At the end of it, Mag gestured toward an open portal and silently withdrew. Terran stepped inside. The chamber was small, but neat and airy, bright with sunlight from a narrow casement. Fragrant rushes covered the floor, and in one corner stood a low couch and pallet of straw. Terran had no sooner taken off his cloak when the portal suddenly burst open, and a spiky yellow head thrust in. "Fluda Flam!" Terran shouted with joyful surprise at the sight of this long-absent companion. "Well met!" The bard seized Terran by the hand and began pumping it with all his might, at the same time clapping him resoundingly on the shoulder. Kor flapped his wings, while Gurgi leapt into the air, yelped at the top of his voice, and embraced Fluda in a shower of twigs, leaves, and shedding hair. "Well, well, well," said the bard, "and high time it is. I've been waiting for you. I thought you'd never get here." "How did you come?" cried Terran, who had just begun to catch his breath. "How did you know we were to be at Dinas Rydant?" "Well, I couldn't help knowing," the bard replied, beaming with delight. "There's been talk of nothing but the Princess Ailonwy. Where is she, by the way? I must find her and pay my respects at once. I was hoping Dalban would send you along. How is he? How is Cole? I see you've brought Kor. Great Berlin, I've seen none of you for so long I've lost track." "But Fluda," Terran interrupted, "what brings you to Mona, of all places?" "Well, it's a short tale," said the bard. "I had decided this time really to make a go of being a king, and so I did for the best part of a year. Then along came spring and the barding and wandering season, and everything indoors began looking unspeakably dreary, and everything outdoors began somehow pulling at me, and next thing I knew I was on my way. I'd never been to Mona, and so that was the best reason in the world for going. I reached Dinas Rydant a week ago. The vessel had already left to meet you, or you can be sure I'd have been on it." "And you can be sure you'd have borne us better company than the princeling of Mona," Terran said. "We were lucky that noble fool didn't somehow manage to blunder into a reef and sink us in the tide. But what of Dolly?" he went on. "I have longed to see him as much as I've longed to see you." "Good old Dolly," the bard chuckled, shaking his yellow head. "I tried to rouse him when I first set out, but he's hidden himself away with his kinsmen in the realm of the fair folk." Fluda sighed. "I fear our good dwarf has lost his taste for adventure. I managed to get word to him, thinking he might come along with me for the sport of it. He sent back a message. All it said was, 'Humph.'" "You should have come to meet us at the harbour," Terran said. "It would have cheered me to know you were here." Yes, I was going to," replied Fluda with some hesitation. "But I thought I'd wait and surprise you. I was busy, too, getting ready to sing a song about the arrival of the princess. Quite an impressive chant, if I do say so myself. We're all mentioned in it, and with plenty of heroic deeds." "And Gurgi too?" cried Gurgi. "Of course," said the bard. "I shall sing it all for you this evening." Gurgi shouted and clapped his hands. "Gurgi cannot wait to hear hummings and strummings." "You shall hear them, old friend," the bard assured him. "All in due course, but you can imagine I can hardly spare the time to join the welcoming procession." At this a harp string broke suddenly. Fluda unslung his beloved instrument and looked at it ruefully. "There it goes again," he sighed. "These beastly strings will never leave off snapping whenever I add a little touch to the truth, and in this case the truth of the matter is, I wasn't invited." "But a bard of the harp is honoured at every court in Prydain," Terran said. "How could they overlook—" Fluda raised a hand. "True, true," he said. "I was certainly honoured here, and handsomely too. That was before they learned I wasn't a real bard. Afterward," he admitted, "I was moved into the stables." "You should have told them you are a king," said Terran. "No, no," said Fluda, shaking his head. "When I'm a bard, I'm a bard, and when I'm a king, there's something else again. I never mix the two." "King Rudlam and Queen Teleria are decent sorts," Fluda continued. "The chief steward was the one who had me turned out." "Are you sure there wasn't some mistake?" Terran asked. "From what I've seen of him, he seems to do his duties perfectly."
"All too well, if you ask me," said Fluda. "Somehow he found out about my qualifications, and next thing I knew, into the stables. The truth of it is, I think he hates music. Surprising how many people I've run into who, for some reason or other, simply can't abide harp playing."
Terran heard a loud rapping at the portal. It was Mag himself, come with the shoemaker, who stood humbly behind him.
"Not that he troubles me," Fluda whispered. "That is," he added, looking at the harp, "not beyond what I can honourably bear."
He slung the instrument over his shoulder.
"Yes, well, as I was saying, I must go and find Princess Ailonwy. We shall meet later, in the stables, if you don't mind, and I shall play my new song."
Glaring at Mag, Fluda strode from the chamber. The chief steward, taking no notice of the bard's angry glance, bowed to Terran.
"As Queen Teleria commanded, you and your companions are to be given new apparel. The shoemaker will serve you as you wish."
Terran sat down on a wooden stool, and as Mag departed from the chamber, the shoemaker drew near. The man was bent with age and garbed most shabbily. A grimy cloth was wrapped around his head, and a fringe of grey hair fell almost to his shoulders. At his broad belt hung curiously shaped knives, awls, and hanks of thongs. Kneeling before Terran, he opened a great sack and thrust in his hand to pull out strips of leather, which he placed about him on the floor. He squinted at his findings, holding up one after the other, then casting it aside.
"We must use the best," he croaked in a voice much like Cor's. "Only that will do. To go well shod is half the journey," he chuckled. "Is that not so, eh? Is that not so, Terran of Caerdalban?"
Terran drew back with a start. The shoemaker's tone had suddenly rung differently. He stared down at the aged man who had picked up a piece of leather and was now shaping it deftly with a crooked little knife. The shoemaker, his face as tanned as his own materials, was watching him steadily. Gurgi looked ready to yelp loudly. The man raised a finger to his lips. Terran, in confusion, hurriedly knelt before the shoemaker. "Lord Gwydion?" Gwydion's eyes flashed with pleasure, but his smile was grim. "Hear me well," he said quickly in a hushed voice. "Should we be interrupted, I shall find a way to speak with you later. Tell no one who I am. What you must know, above all, is this. The life of the Princess Ailonwy is in danger, and so," he added, "is your own."
Hey, you want to buy something? You can check the description for my books and audiobooks. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.